Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today, of course, I am bringing you my Altergeist deck profile. Now, I've been messing around with this for quite a while now, and yeah, this deck is really fun. This is going to be a budget version, so you guys know I generally try to keep you guys with a $100 budget. Depending on what you guys already have, you can obviously take this deck a lot further. But overall, like even if you try to build like full power Altergeist, it's really not that expensive. The only thing that this deck is really missing is like infinite impermanence, and like if you want to go as extravagant as playing Pot of Extravagance, you can totally do that if you want to as well. But yeah, besides that, like the extra deck really doesn't get spendy because you really don't need anything crazy. And yeah, the main deck just has a lot of really great control cards. So let's just hop right on into the deck profile. Playing a very standard monster lineup for the Altergeist. So obviously 3 of the MultiFaker. This came off our most recent ban list, the most like joking ban list anyone's ever seen, but I already did my update to Necros, so I figured I would officially get a Altergeist build up on here. So what MultiFaker does is that when this card is in your hand, when you activate a trap card, you can special summon this to the field and then also special summon another Altergeist monster from the main deck, which is really cool. The only downside to this is that it locks you into Altergeist for the rest of the turn, but again, we really don't need to go into anything else. Unless you're trying to like push for game, but besides that, you can still do some really good damage with the Altergeist cards. So MultiFaker is like the best thing to be seeing in your hand at any point in the game. Then we're going on into the next 3 of, which is Altergeist Melusique. So this card is a level 1 monster, so it's a really great target for Link Karibo, Relinquished Anima, or Salamangre Almirage. So with that, with this card, you can actually attack your opponent directly for 500 damage, and then when this card does damage to your opponent, you can target one card your opponent controls and just send it to the graveyard. So it does target, but it is non-destruction removal, so we definitely like that. So I really like playing the 3 Melusique. This is an extremely standard monster lineup here, but then also when this card is sent to the graveyard, you're able to get one of your Altergeist monsters from your deck and add it into your hand. So basically, it like really helps you to keep your consistency up with getting your MultiFaker in hand or whatever else you just need at the moment. So and again, like that's just when it's sent to the graveyard. So that's why we run like Link Karibo and Relinquished Anima in the extra deck. So then going on, we were playing 3 copies of Altergeist Marionetta. Another great card for the deck. It's got 1600 attack, which is actually pretty nice. There's not, like, he's the highest attack of the monsters in the deck, so he's, or she, really helps with the Link monster, who increases its attack depending on what Altergeist monster it's pointing to. And this is also, like, the best normal summon for the deck, so when this card's normal summoned, you can set one Altergeist trap directly from your deck to your field, which is really crazy, so just helps you to get whatever you need to the field. And this card's going to be really broken if we ever get like a really great like Omni Negate Altergeist card. And then besides that, with Marionetta, you're able to target one of your Altergeist cards that is on the field, and then one of your Altergeist monsters that's in the graveyard, and then you send the one card that's on the field to the graveyard, and then you special summon back the Altergeist monster from the graveyard. So really nice just to like sort of keep up with your keep up your board presence. It just has to be an Altergeist card that you send to the graveyard, so it actually helps really well with just sending one of your traps to the graveyard or whatever else you want to, and then you just keep extending your plays from there. Then we're going on to 2 copies of the Altergeist Soliquitus. And this card here is just absolutely insane. It's still nice as a 2 of, but like this card, like you always want to see this on the board. So basically what you do is you, with this card is you can pop one of your Altergeist cards back to your hand and then pop one card on your opponent's side of the field back to their hand. So really nice just for spot removing anything that you want to get rid of, especially like extra deck monsters. And then also keep in mind that that is a quick effect, so you can use it on either player's turn, which is really, really nice. And then besides that, when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can actually get one of your Altergeist trap cards back from the graveyard to your hand, which is really great. And then the last Altergeist monster, just 1 copy of Altergeist Conquiri, but this card is absolutely insane as well. Really all of these cards are just really great. They just synergize so well. This card is like your battle protection, which means that you don't need to really run anything like Mirror Force or anything like that. But if you have an Altergeist card on the field and your opponent is attacking, you can go ahead and special summon this to the field, preferably in defense mode because it has 2400 defense, and then that's going to negate the attack, and then you can select one card on your opponent's side of the field and negate it, and as long as this card is on the field, that card is going to be negated. So that's really nice. It doesn't have to be particularly a monster or even the monster that attacked, so it's really cool. And then say that monster ends up leaving the field, you can just send this back to your hand with Soliquitus, or send it back to the deck with one of your trap cards, and then eventually get it back to your hand, and then you can just reuse that effect. So it's really cool, really helps with the control aspect of the deck and helps for battle protection. So going on, then we were playing just 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Effect Veiler. We are playing a 1-for-1 in the deck, so it's just nice to have a few extra monsters because we are running a heavy trap lineup, so that means that you got to have a couple extra monsters to be able to send for the 1-for-1 in order to get our Melusique onto the field as quickly as possible. And then also with that, just like these are 2 of like the simplest, best cards if you're trying to help control the game state. So then the 1-for-1 is going to be our lone spell card for the deck. I'm opting not to run any Pot of Extravagance or Pot of Desires in the deck, just for the sake of budget, and also I don't really care for Desires in here just because we want to keep all of our combo pieces in the deck. So then going on for the Altergeist trap cards, this is not technically an Altergeist trap, it's just called personal spoofing, so keep that in mind that this card cannot be searched or added with anything that says an Altergeist trap card, but this card is so good, it kind of makes sense that they didn't make it an Altergeist card, but they're, you still want to get this onto your field as quickly as possible, because once per turn, you can shuffle one other Altergeist card from your hand or face up on your side of the field into the main deck, and then add one Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand. So the really good part about this is, say you have MultiFaker on your side of the field, you can activate this, send the MultiFaker back to the hand, or sorry, back to the deck, and then you can add MultiFaker back into your hand, and then if this was the first time that you flipped to activate this, you can actually go ahead and just special summon that MultiFaker off of even at the resolution of this effect. So it's really nice. Yeah, this card is so good. I would almost consider putting it up to 3, but it's nice as a 2-of in the deck. Basically anything in here works as a 2-of. So we were playing 2 copies of the Altergeist Protocol. Basically, while this card's on the field, your Altergeist monster effects can't be negated. And then also you can tribute an Altergeist to negate 1 monster effect per turn. 1 copy of Altergeist Manifestation. I would consider bumping this up to 2, just because of all the other ways that you can get Altergeist cards from like the deck or the graveyard back to your field or hand and stuff. So I would maybe like to bump this up to 2. But basically what this does is it's a Monster Reborn for your Altergeist, and then when this card's sitting in your graveyard, you can actually banish it from the graveyard to target one of your Altergeist traps, and then just add it back into your hand. So nice to get some of these other cards, and that's kind of the reason why I wouldn't mind running this at 2-of, because then if this is in the graveyard and you want Manifestation back, then you can just banish to add the other one. But that's going to do it for all of our Altergeist traps. Again, there's really not that many of them, not many useful ones, but overall this is sort of like the standard lineup, and if we ever get another really good Altergeist trap, it's going to really help beef up the power of the deck. So then going on, we are playing a pretty serious Solemn run, pretty standard also for this deck. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, 3 Solemn Strike. And then just for a little bit of extra hand advantage, again, since I said I'm not playing any of the pot cards, we're playing 3 copies of Jar of Greed. These are just actually really nice in the deck, because if you start having all of your like continuous trap cards on the field like these, and then you stop having trap cards to activate, you can just use Jar of Greed in order to activate a trap card in order to proc the effect of your MultiFaker, summon MultiFaker to the field, and then whether it's on your opponent's turn or your turn and you activate the Jar of Greed, hopefully you'll be able to get like one of your hand traps to your hand, or really whatever else is going to help you get the most advantage for your board. So then we're playing 2 Compulse, And then sort of like an interesting tech card that I like playing in here, a really this along with the Jar of Greed are really good side out cards. So I kind of like having these in here. They're really easy. They're good against basically any deck, and then they're good side out options. So Black Horn of Heaven just works as basically another Solemn Judgment in order like Solemn Judgment and Solemn Strike to stop a special summon of a monster. Basically the theory is if you run these are basically 8 different monster summon negates or monster effect if you go with strike, and then with that, no matter like what deck your opponent is playing, it's going to be really hard for them to come back from losing all of their monsters. So, and then the Judgment is in here as well to like stop your opponent from blowing up your board with like, you know, like a Twin Twisters or anything like that. So we obviously want to keep all of our traps on the board. So that's why we're running the Judgments along with the Black Horn of Heaven. And then just to stop spells, we are playing 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance and then 1 Imperial Order. The Imperial Order in here is really nice. You just pay 700 life points and then it negates the effects of all spells. We're only playing the 1 spell card in the deck, so that means that anything that your opponent's going to be trying to get at you spell-wise is not going to be able to be activated with this, or they're going to have to wait a turn with the Anti-Spell Fragrance, and sometimes that's just enough to make sure that you get all the advantage onto the board you need and keep the game state in your control. But now let's get on into the extra deck. So, of course, in the extra, we are playing 3 copies of Altergeist Hextia. So, this card is a 1500 attack, Link 2 monster who requires 2 Altergeists. While it's on the field, it gains attack equal to any Altergeist monsters that it points to for the original attack. So, if it's pointing to MultiFaker, it's going to gain 1200, so you can actually get to some pretty big numbers on here. And again, if you get your Marionetta underneath it or next to it, then that's actually going to give it 1600 extra attack. And what's even better than that is if you can get a Hextia pointing to a Hextia, then that's usually pretty nuts as well. But also with that, while this is on the field, if your opponent activates a spell or trap, you can tribute an Altergeist that this points to, and then negate the card and destroy it, which is always nice. You know, we have a lot of monster control in the deck, so it's really good to get Hextia out to get a little bit of extra spell and trap control. And then when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you're actually able to get an Altergeist monster and add it from your, or sorry, 1 Altergeist card and add it from your deck to your hand, which again, like the search ability in this deck is just nuts. Then going on into 1 Altergeist Prime Banshee, not really as good, but it is the Link 3 for the deck, and it just helps to get a little bit more power onto the board. It's got 2100 attack, so if you can get Hextia pointing to your Prime Banshee, that's always really good. Then going on to 2 copies of Link Karibo. You could drop it to 1 if you really wanted to, but I like just playing the 2. We always want to get that Marionetta into the graveyard as easily as we can. And then just saving ourselves for more battle stuff is always good. 1 Relinquished Anima, just to punish your opponent for playing like in a zone that Anima can, you know, target around, so that's always really nice. 1 Salamangreat Almirage. It doesn't come off that often, but it's kind of nice. My like secret tech card for the deck is Akashi Magician. I'm not sure if anybody else is really playing this, but I really like it in here because, again, the extra deck is just not that important. So it has 2 zones pointing up and down, and then when this card is summoned, you bounce cards that it, the cards that it points to. So if you summon it there in the middle zone, you bounce your card up to your hand, which we already do that quite a bit in the deck, and then you can bounce your opponent's monster up into their hand, and then so it just really helps to get a little bit of extra spot removal for the deck. And besides that, we really don't use its excavating effect very often, like basically never, so I'm not even going to explain that. Then the Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Cerberus, if you can squeeze Nightmare Unicorn in here, that's totally fine. 1 Decode Talker, just, you know, basic cheap Link monster if that's the budget you're working with. 1 Topologic Zeroboros, 1 Borolo Dragon, and then just 1 Borosword Dragon. He's the only one that really pushes the budget, maybe a little bit over $100, but besides that, he's like a really good win condition for the deck. So if you haven't used MultiFaker on the turn and you're actually able to go into other Link monsters, then if you can go on up into Borosword Dragon, then that's going to mean that you can push for game because Hopefully you've kept the game in your own control, and it's just going to help you to push for that final battle damage that you need, because we can't really put up too many big numbers with this deck unless you just have a really boss-looking Hextia on the board. Other side deck options, I've already kind of mentioned Pot of Desires. It's still a really cheap alternative. And then also Rivalry of the Warlords works really great in here because it's just another great floodgate. So that means that all monsters on your side of the field are going to be spellcasters. And then if your opponent is playing a deck that's not rock specific or, you know, whatever else, that just going to help you to control this the board state. So if your opponent is playing something where they go into a whole lot of types, you know, put this in your side deck, and then Rivalry of the Warlords is going to help you to, you know, just get up another really great floodgate. So if you get this on the board along with your like anti-spell fragrance, that's just going to really hurt your opponent. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the deck profile. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Don't forget to subscribe to Common Collector for more of these budget builds in the future. Let me know in the comments what other deck profiles you guys want to see, whether it's full budget or around $100 budget. So thank you guys very much for watching. We'll catch you next time.